Welcome to my daily review. You're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which was down 278 points today, or 1.53% on volume, 6% above the 50-day average volume. The Nasdaq, after a strong rally here from the August 5th low, had a decent third quarter, and there was some profit taking. September is usually a weak month, and it was pretty strong in September. So we came in October, the first day of the fourth quarter, at the first day of October, and there's some profit taking going on. Obviously, there's some geopolitical things and some news related items that may or may not affect the market. I'm going to get to that a little later, but just taking, just looking at the Nasdaq without any outside influence, you just say, hey, it had a nice little rally and now it pulled back to its 21 EMA today, which is fine and normal. If we take a look back at, the prior rallies that it's had, the Nasdaq, broke out here and it finds support at the 21. It undercut it here a little bit, but it continually finds support at the 21 as it rallies. We had a nice long rally here until it didn't. This bar where it sliced, it's 21, which led to a nice correction. But once again, we rallied up and it found support. This rally was a little stronger. It didn't even come down to the 21 before making that 16% correction from July 11th to August 5th. And since August 5th, it's had a nice run. And now, first day of October, just some profit taking, more rotation, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But not this is normal action here for the Nasdaq today. So no great shakes. Don't get too down. Listening to the news. This is normal action. All right, I want to go to the Dow Jones Industrial Average because the Nasdaq was a weaker index today. The Dow Jones was down 0.41%, still trading. Oh, I've got to do this with the Nasdaq too. Still trading 1.2% above its 21. And since I'm thinking about this, the Nasdaq was 4.4% above its 50. Now it's only 2.7 and 0.7% above its 21. So, that's pretty good action, I think. The SPY a lot stronger than the Nasdaq, 2.9% above its 50 and 0.8% above its 21. And if I go to the weekly here, it's just 1.1% off that all-time high. So you can't be too bearish when the SPY is 1% off its all-time high. All right. IWM, this one was down 1.36%. So, the riskier assets, the growth assets were down a little more than well, obviously what was up today was the materials, utilities, and the oil, energy, oil stock. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. But the Russell 2000 IWM is a 1.3% above its 50 and just right at its 21 today. So it closed at the 21, where the Nasdaq closed up off the 21 today after bouncing off it, right? It pulled back to it. It was down 17,779 today and closed at 910. So that's a nice little bounce there. All right, we trade stocks. I'm only interested in stocks. Yeah, I like the tailwinds from the index, though. Don't get me wrong. That's why I go through that every day. But Apple, every day you're going to report that the iPhone 16 is not in demand, or it's in demand, or it's not in demand. None of these guys know. Nobody on Wall Street knows. They're all guessing. They're all guessing, and they're all coming out every morning with their predictions that that the iPhone is either doing really well or it's not. The only person that was the T-Mobile CEO who said they were seeing strong demand, but that's just one carrier. So anyway, Barclays was the culprit today, saying there's weak demand, and it was down nearly 3%. It was down even further than that, though, as it had pulled back to its 21, which was what, 225.34, and then closed half a percent above it. But it did trade down to 223.74 today. So undercut it and then rallied back above it. So definitely one that I'm watching. Pretty strong stock here of the Mag 7. Microsoft still, forming this cup with handle base, pulled back to its 50 today. Not bad. Let me see. Oh, NVIDIA. I've got to get to NVIDIA here. I knew the semiconductors would be down today. There was a typhoon in Taiwan that shut down the index there. So, just in Wall Street, they're going to shoot first and ask questions later. Anytime there's like news like that, like, oh, what's going on there? I'm looking for, NVIDIA to kind of trade above 120, get above this last week's high, at least 122. But really, it's got to break above that high to get really, for me to get really aggressively long. That's 127.67 last week. So it's got some work to do. Amazon, forming this cup with handle pattern, nice shakeout here down to the 21 again, like the Nasdaq. This thing traded down to the 21, closed, just a tick below it. Google was pretty strong today. Up, okay, that's relative strength. When the index down like it was today, and if you're flat, that's relative strength. But anyway, this one drove through its moving averages, and this one is actually forming a nice double bottom base and looks pretty good. Tesla, yeah, just pulled back a little bit today. It was getting, a little extended there. Nice run off the lows. Still looks pretty good, forming that right side of the base. And then Meta Platforms, broke out, and this is a really strong stock. I think it made a new high today. I didn't check the new high list. Yeah, 583, that's a new high. So had a strongest of all those Mag 7 stocks. I mentioned the semiconductors, they were going to be weak with the activities in Taiwan and Broadcom, AVGO just pulled back to its 21 today, which was 166.31. You can see it's a rising 21, so that'll be, going up every day. And it traded a little bit below it there at 165.80 and then closed 167.47. Just 1.2% above its 21. So that looks good. And then SMH pulled back to its 21 and squatted there. It stalled there and just stayed right there, no bounce for the semiconductors. And anyway, the news is pretty bad for that index today. So I'm going to be watching that and see if we can get some strength later on in the week. All right. I'm going to move on to, of course, the the China stocks, which are just relentlessly powering higher. This is a JD. Another 7% move today. Let's go back to the weeklies because this looks to me like, it's a breakout, straight up from the bottom, and those usually stall, but these are not. Last week it was up, 40% and tacking on another 8% this week. You can see this is a breakout from a stage one base. So probably, I would say the beginning of a larger move, but that doesn't mean it's going to go straight up to, $65 right away. But so far it is. Eventually or pretty soon, some sellers will come in and take profits. I would imagine they always do. So anyway, like I said, I wouldn't be chasing JD, even though they're showing relative strength in a weak tape, and they sure are tempting. But that's 33% above its 21 and 10% above its 5. Oops, I've got to change this back here because I've been toying with the 5 EMA on some stocks, and I'll get to those in a minute. But typically, I like to have the 10. So 20% above the 10 is pretty darn hot. BEKE, this one we have on our ready list last week because it's one of the few ones of the China names that are trading near a buy point there. You can see that if I show it on the weekly, had a little, well, last week it was up 40%, right? Yesterday it pulled back, and today it was up a little bit. Wow, it's up 16% this week. So it was up a lot today. Yesterday it pulled back quite a bit, like 9% or something. Oh no, just pulled back slightly. Okay, it ran up. I see faking like it was going to break out, then pulled back to that old buy point. You can see if we look at this here on Friday. First of all, it had the big gap up on Thursday. Well, it had a couple big gaps up here as it climbed up the right side of its base. 7%, 10%, little pullback, and then it rammed up 21%. Then on Thursday, then on Friday had an inside day. So I thought, okay, inside day, this thing's ready to blast higher. And then it did. It looked like it was going to on I go to the 5 minute here, there it is on Monday morning gaps higher, and then it sold off. And then today, now it starts to break out here with this nice rally and above yesterday's high. So, yeah, This one looks pretty good to me. I wouldn't chase it here, I don't think. The buy point's what, 2048, it's at 2338, man, 17% move. 27% above the 10, so no, no. That is a definite no. Oh, and FUTU, this one's up, I want to say 97% or nearly 100% from the low of 5622 on September 12th. Man, this thing is just a beast. So 56 would be, I don't know, call it 112 as a double. And you're looking at what, 3 weeks? And it might trade at 108.60 today, man. So I would say that has some mighty power there, and it's awfully stretched. 30% above the 10. You don't see that very often, on a 3-week move. You'll see it on a 1-day move, on a breakout move, but this thing has sustained, this rally here off the low. It's just 3 weeks in a row is up 13% and 31%. Now this week, 26%. So that's a sustained move. It's not just one day. All right, I'm going to stop here with the China names and just go to the exchange traded funds. And this is FXI. Once again, like a cross between the QQQs and the Dow 30. It's the China 50 names and total strength. I think this is a good way to play the China names longer term, so you don't have to get involved with individual names. And the other one is KWEB, which is the exchange traded fund for the internet index. So obviously you can see this big base here and then another base and straight up from the bottom here. 3 weeks in a row, 5%, 27%, this week, 6%. So KWEB just showing strength as well. I think this is just a little safer way to play the China names if you want to have exposure to that area. All right, I've got to get to the beast of the East. This is the top performing stock in the S&P 500 this year. And when I said that, people were arguing with me like, this is stuff I can go back and fact check, right? I mean, I don't really care. I mean, what people say, but this is up 218% since the last trading day of December. NVDA, they're trying to tell me it's a better stock, but it's up 136%, which is not bad. We'll take 136%, but VST is the top performing stock in the S&P 500. The S&P is up almost 20%, so that's a good year. But this is outperforming. VST has just been a monster. You can see, it rallied from this, when it broke above its downtrend line. Here, tapped on it about 4 times. Broke out, we had this on our ready list. Really, the buy point here, the standard buy point is 107.24. And from a buy point of a standard buy point, you can usually expect like a 20% move. So I would say maybe 130 would be, before it rests. But right now it's hot. It's very hot. And, when the Nasdaq is down or the indexes are down like they were today, this thing was up 3.3%. So you talk about relative strength. This one's got it. It's 10.4% above its 10 EMA. It's definitely hot, but maybe form a little shelf before trading higher. Did make an all-time high today, so I don't know. I would just expect before the move is over and it decides the base, I would expect it to trade higher. That's all. CEG, this is Constellation. And this one's forming a little shelf here as well. It looks a lot like VST. VST is probably a little stronger here because it is making new highs. This one's 7.6% above the 10. So for me, I mean, just let it, go sideways for a couple of weeks. That's not the end of the world. Nice gap higher on that news from Microsoft deal. So that looks good. GEV is another one that's just kind of forming this little shelf type pattern. These all look pretty similar. This is alternative energy like CEG. Looks good. TLN, another utility. Utilities were strong today. This one, if pulling back here, a little pennant here, pinching in. Maybe if you get lucky, it'll pull back to the 21 before it finds support. But TLN looks pretty strong as well. DTE. Another utility diversified stock. This one just surfing its moving averages like Kelly Slater, making new highs. ETR, no, electrical power, top group, top stock, trading higher, making new highs, surfing the moving averages. There's nothing to do here with these except for just count your money and watch them go higher. This is POWL. This one had a base. It broke out of a base recently. It had a base on base pattern, finally broke out here. So I think this has more room to go before the move, peters out or just forms another base. It was up 22% 2 weeks ago, 6% last week, and carrying on another 4% this week. You think, oh my God, it's a little extended, but yeah, probably 200 is that buy area, 198.49, we'll call it 200. So 20% move from there, be about 240 maybe before it starts to form a base. We'll see. We'll just take it one day at a time. But anyway, that group is strong. I've got to get to the oil and gas group as well because that was strong today. Another, obviously with the goings on in the Middle East, the oil is definitely a factor. And you can see the pullback here, CNX, been following this one for a little while, pullback to its 10 found support, bounced higher. That one looks good in the oil and gas area. KGS, this is one of my favorites in the group. You can see it's been consolidating for a long time. Now it's pulled back to a moving average here. Little bull wedge pattern back to the 10. Would not be surprised to see it bounce and make a new high here pretty darn soon. That should show up on your Reddit list here pretty soon. KGS, I like KGS. You can see it IPO'd, formed an IPO base and ripped higher. This is your due diligence phase. This is your advanced phase. Now it's consolidated since this base here. It's had like base on base pattern here, March 8th of 24. So what are we in the 10th month? So we're getting about 7 months into consolidation. It's time to move. KGS. EE is another one of these gas. This is a natural gas stock making new highs. So that one's showing strength as well. Kinder Morgan making new highs today, breaking out from that 2186 area. This is a slower mover, but making new highs. So Kinder Morgan looks pretty good. And then oil and gas transportation pipeline stock. This is GLNG. You can see Cheniere looks like a choppy mess. This is a lot tighter. You can see the difference in those charts. Trading tight within the base, pull back to moving average, then bounce. So that looks pretty darn good to me at 36.52, but a little extended there. Not too bad. But wait for it to come back to that moving average. 7% above the 10. Yeah, little too hot. All right. I've got to go to the drug stocks. I'm not going to ignore these drug stocks. And NVO, it had this low of 118.80. Well, okay, let's get with the date here. What date was that? August 7th. So it's been, three, almost 4 weeks. So it made this low here. Now it revisits the low. And if we look here at the, I don't know, maybe a 10-minute chart, maybe a 15-minute chart or a 30-minute chart, you can see it's just bouncing off these lows here the last few sessions. I might have to go to a 60-minute chart and see if I can capture that. Nope. All right. Made the low here and now has retested the low. And you got to be careful here, I think, with NVO. Yeah, that was August 7th and sliced all its moving averages. Big volume coming in. Obviously, they're entangled in the the lower drug prices from the administration, and they're trying to get a deal done. But bigger picture, I would beware of NVO because I think Lilly's got a better weight loss drug. And you can see here it had this, stage 1 base, and then it's been in stage 2 for a long, 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 long time, rallying. And now this looks like it could be stage 3 here. And this could be the start of a stage 4 decline, which would take it down, down, down. So if you own this, which I do, longer term, I'm well aware that Right now it's 20% off its 52-week high, which is not too alarming. It is below its 200. It's retesting this low area. I would expect it, some buyers to come in, and if not, this thing's probably going to trade lower. And then what you don't want to see it do is rally up to its 200 and then get rejected and trade lower. And then that would probably be the end of this run for NVO, and then it would have to start over with the stage one base. So anyway, that's it for NVO. I did mention Lilly. They do have a better pipeline and a better weight loss drug. And this one sliced, it's 50, just consolidating within a base here. I would say that 966, 970 area is an area of interest. And now it's showing this base here, go all the way back here, just consolidating within a base. This is your August 5th low and then rally above, but still consolidating in this base for quite some time. So Lilly reports October 30th. So, probably won't do much until then. Anyway, I'm going to move on. No, I'm not going to move on. I'm going to go to my favorite drug stock, ADMA. Just surfing its moving average. Kelly Slater stock had an inside day today, I believe. Yeah. While everything was, selling off, this thing just, down 22 cents, having an inside day. So no big deal. Pulling back to its 10 EMA. And then a couple other ones that I wanted to show in the drug area. Oh, CORT. This one, another strong stock, broke out here, just continues to rip higher. This one's getting extended as well. 7.8% above the 10. And the last one is CAPR. I thought this one was going to pull back today. Okay, good. It did 20 cents, but it was ripping higher. It was up to 18.14 today. I thought, my goodness, this thing's got to pull back. There it is at the open. Yeah, then some sellers came in. It just went flat the rest of the day. So CAPR, don't be chasing that. It's a little hot. 48% above its 10. You don't see that often. I'm going to move on to some names that, held up well. Some of the, if you're going to own a software name, I think you always want to own the leaders no matter what group you're in. You want to own the top stocks and, the group. And this is AppLovin. Definitely, I showed you yesterday that it's just trading with its 5 EMA. I don't want to go toggle back and forth there, but you know that it's getting support at the 5 and it just trades sideways. I'm fine with that. Forms a little shelf, but this is showing strength. With the Nasdaq down the way it was today, for this to be flat, that is relative strength. ZETA showing relative strength, pulling back to the 10. If this just wants to form a shelf here, that's fine with me as well. A PSN, this is Parsons Computer Software Group, just surfing its moving averages and finding support. It's a 21 after this cup with handle breakout. That looks fantastic. Well, SE, I'm going to call this a software news or retail internet, but just making new highs. This might be getting a boost from the China stimulus, quite likely. And then a couple other names that I always like, but get frustrated with them is Spotify is one. It had that 331 buy point, formed this little base here. New buy point at 359, had this little Darvis box, if you will. Traded above that, now pulled back to the 10, and then today bounced. I mean, the Nasdaq was down pretty severely today, and this thing bounced higher. So what does that tell you? DUOL, it tells you it's a strong stock. This is Duolingo, had a massive move. Now some profit taking coming in, but this thing's starting to form a little pennant or flag, if you will. This thing looks fantastic to me, allowing the moving averages to catch up. It was down less than 0.5% while the Nasdaq was sucking. All right, I just want to go through some more relative strength stocks that I observed today. I'm not going to post all of them, but just some that I noticed, some that I like, some that I observed. This is Carvana. Why would I like this? Well, it formed that bull wedge pattern again, right? As it pulled back to its 10 EMA with light volume. And then what did it do? It bounced Monday and Tuesday. All right. What other names? Oh, the wood stocks. And this has to do, I believe, with the dock workers strike. They went on strike last night. And so there's people at Costco buying all their toiletries and all their goods and stocking up for well, I better not say anything. It just, better to be safe than sorry. Their pantries are full, their basements are full. And this is a wood stock. So, the wood might become a little more scarce or might become a little more expensive. And Louisiana Pacific is one of the few providers here in the country. So that probably will continue to benefit as long as that strike continues, which hopefully they settle that soon. That's going to be a real problem. The housing stocks, NVR, making new highs, up $80 or 0.82%. Yeah, man, 90, 98, 92. It's got to get over 10,000 here pretty soon. But you can see this is just a Kelly Slater stock trading. It's on its moving averages there, and just tremendous uptrend. Nice channel, higher highs, higher lows for NVR. The other one I had on my ready list is TPH, and it's flat on the day. That's showing a lot of strength. You can see it's consolidating within its base, trading kind of tight. Had an inside day yesterday. I kind of like the way this thing's trading. And Pulte Homes, I guess I got to show you one of the, yeah, that thing's just forming a little shelf here. Looks good as well. Pulte, showing relative strength in a week. Tape Hims is another one showing strength. This one's forming a base here, undercut the 200 and has rallied through all of its moving averages, including the 50. Wow, it's up 5% today. So, yeah, I do have this one on my ready list this week, and it's having a good week. It's up nearly 9%. So I didn't buy it, but just noticing that it's showing relative strength. PPC, the food stocks, probably going to be strong here, for a variety of reasons. But this is Pilgrim's Pride, and it made a new high today. AYI had earnings report, and nice response to earnings, up 9%, following its earnings report with massive volume. So a move not to be ignored. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. But at mcstockcharts.com, we never give up. I do have one more thing in honor of the great Steve Jobs. One more thing, he says. I do have one more thing. And that is, you're going to see a lot of negative stuff in the news regarding the war. And I don't want to be a jackass. War sucks. People people die, they get hurt, families lose loved ones. It's terrible for all parties involved. So, like I said, I don't want to be a jackass, but I do want to point out that don't get too negative because you're watching the news and you're seeing these bombs go off, and there's a lot of destruction. But I got to tell you, from a stock market standpoint, war has been good for the stock market over time. I hate to say that, but it's true because people spend a lot of money and they hustle, and countries rally together, and they'll do anything to fight for their country. And these defense names perking up here. This is Raytheon, which is in this box here at 123.70, and it traded above it today. I shouldn't say Raytheon, it's RTX. They merged, so it's RTX now. But up nearly 3% in this tape. And these defense names, you talk about China having a sustained move. These things look like they might be having a sustained move. This is Lockheed Martin making a new high today, just blasting out of that little shelf. It had a 3 weeks tight pattern, big move, up 4% this week. And like I said, I don't want to be, harsh or coarse or anything, but I'm just showing you strength. And this is I don't want you to get too down, because in the market, usually war brings, there's opportunities. How about that? This is 98.15 buy point here for Helmet. This one crossed above 200 today. Excuse me, 100. And I like it above 100. I don't like it below 100, one of those things. So if this continues to climb, I think 98.15 is a decent buy point there for Helmet. I did show Northrop. I showed Lockheed. CW. Yeah, making new highs. Once again, this little wedge pattern, seeing quite a bit of that. That's when you embrace the pullbacks. You don't buy the pullbacks, you buy the bounce off the pullback. A bounce Monday, and then really went, the bounce Monday was off the 10, which was 323. So it bounced 323, closed at 328. Today traded up to 336, closed there. Wow. Closed at 82% of its daily range. 329 actually closed, traded up to. So Curtis Wright looks good. LHX looks good as well. These are defense names, are all defense names. This one's right at a buy point here. So this one might appear on our ready list, although it is extended. But you know what we've seen here is this little pullback, trading tight within its base, pulling back to a moving averages, and trading higher. We see that often. Um, Last Friday, when the tape was down a little bit, it was up 1.5%. Yesterday, the tape was up a little bit. It was up 1.23, and today the tape was down sharply. It was at 3.12%. It's got that buy point at 245. So that one looks good. And then GD, gosh darn, pulled back to its 50. That's a little more of a shake out there. That's, so it's a wedge pattern, but man, it's a sharp shakeout. And then found support and bounced 1% today. So GD looks good. All right, and the last thing I have is Nike reported after the bell today. Expectations were super low. I think they might have beat on the EPS. They were light on the revenues. I don't know what they said in the call, but this has a heavy exposure to China. So I would think they would start to see some green shoots in this business. They have a new CEO. And oftentimes with the new CEO, a company will sandbag, well, a lot of companies sandbag anyway, but they'll do it to an extreme. So at the next conference call, when he has his first full quarter, he'll be able to look like a hero and come in and say, "Oh, we did better than expected," and the stock will rise. So, maybe it'll pull back a little bit, but Nike, looks to me like it had that bottom. This is what I showed you with a NVO as well. Made that bottom, retested a couple times, ran up, pulled back, didn't really retest it there at 76. Pull back to moving average, and now it's running higher, but it's still below its 200, so it has a lot of work to do. But you can see the short-term moving averages, the 10, the 21, and the 50 are heading in the right direction. So I'm going to be watching this one this week, and I've got to hear what they have to say in the conference call, and I'll have more in the morning. So thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Remember, this is a bull market, so embrace pullbacks and don't get too down. We never give up. Thank you for watching.